Electoral history of Richard Nixon, 37th President of the United States, 36th Vice President of the United States Senator and United States Representative from California, U.S. House elections. 1946-1948 Nixon ran unopposed in the 1948 Republican primary. 1950 U.S. Senate election. 1952 presidential election. 1952 Republican National Convention. Richard Nixon 1206. United States presidential election. 1952 Source: Lippi, David. 1952 presidential election results. Dave Lipps Atlas of U.S. presidential elections. Retrieved August 1, 2005. Source: Electoral College Box Scores 1789 to 1996. National Archives and Records Administration. Retrieved August 1, 2005. 1956 presidential election. 1956 Republican National Convention. Richard Nixon 1323. United States presidential election. 1956 Source: Lippi, David. 1956 presidential election results. Dave Lipps Atlas of U.S. presidential elections. Retrieved August 1, 2005. Source: Electoral College Box Scores 1789 to 1996. National Archives and Records Administration. Retrieved August 1, 2005. 1960 presidential election. 1960 Republican presidential primaries. Richard Nixon 4,975,938. Unpledged 314,234. George H. Bender 211,090. Cecil H. Underwood 123,756. James L. Lloyd 48,461. Nelson Rockefeller 30,639. Frank R. Beckworth 19,677. John F. Kennedy 12,817. Barry Goldwater 3,146. Paul C. Fisher 2,388. Adlai Stevenson 694. Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr. 514. Dwight D. Eisenhower 172. Stiles Bridges 108. 1960 Republican National Convention. Richard Nixon 1321. Barry Goldwater 10. United States presidential election. 1960 There were 537 electoral votes, up from 531 in 1956, because of the addition of 2 U.S. senators and 1 U.S. representative from each of the new states of Alaska and Hawaii. Source: Lippi, David. 1960 presidential election results. Dave Lipps Atlas of U.S. presidential elections. Retrieved February 7, 2008. Note: Sullivan Curtis ran only in Texas. In Washington, Constitution Party ran Curtis for president and B.N. Miller for vice president, receiving 1,401 votes. Source: Electoral College Box Scores 1789 to 1996. National Archives and Records Administration. Retrieved August 2, 2005. This figure is problematic. See Alabama popular vote above. Byrd was not directly on the ballot. Instead, his electoral votes came from unpledged Democratic electors and a faithless elector. Oklahoma faithless elector Henry D. Irwin, though pledged to vote for Richard Nixon and Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr., instead voted for non-candidate Harry F. Byrd. However, unlike other electors who voted for Byrd and Strom Thurmond as vice president, Irwin voted for Barry Goldwater as vice president. In Mississippi, the slate of unpledged Democratic electors won. They cast their 8 votes for Byrd and Thurmond. 1962 California gubernatorial election. 1964 presidential election. 1964 Republican presidential primaries. Barry Goldwater 2,267,079, Nelson Rockefeller 1,304,204, James A. Rhodes 615,754, Henry Cabot Lodge, Jr. 386,661, John W. Burns 299,612, William Scranton 245,401, Margaret Chase Smith 227,007, Richard Nixon 197,212, unpledged 173,652. Harold Stassen 114,083. 1968 presidential election. 1968 Republican presidential primaries. Ronald Reagan 1,696,632. Richard Nixon 1,679,443. James A. Rhodes 614,492. Nelson A. Rockefeller 164,340. Unpledged 140,639. Eugene McCarthy 44,520. Harold Stassen 31,655. John Volpe 31,465. Others 21,456. George Wallace 15,291. Robert Kennedy 14,524. Hubert Humphrey 5,698. Lyndon Johnson 4,824, George Romney 4,447, Raymond P. Schaefer 1,223, William W. Scranton 724, Charles H. Percy 689, Barry M. Goldwater 598, John V. Lindsay 591. 1968 Republican National Convention, first ballot, James A. John V. Lindsay 1. Second ballot, Ronald Reagan 2. United States presidential election, 1968. Source, Lippi, David. 1968 presidential election results. Dave Lipps Atlas of U.S. presidential elections. Retrieved August 7, 2005. Source: Electoral College box scores 1789 to 1996. National Archives and Records Administration. Retrieved August 7, 2005. 1972 presidential election. 1972 Republican presidential primaries. Richard Nixon 5,378,704. Unpledged 317,048. John M. Ashbrook 311,543. Pete McCloskey 132,731. George Wallace 20,907. None of the names shown 8,916. 1972 Republican National Convention. Richard Nixon 1,347. Pete McCloskey 1. New York Conservative Party Presidential Convention 1972. Richard Nixon 156. John G. Schmitz 38. Abstaining 29. Source: Lippi, David. 1972 presidential election results. Dave Leip's Atlas of U.S. Presidential Elections. Retrieved August 7, 2005. Source: Electoral College Box Scores 1789–1996. National Archives and Records Administration. Retrieved August 7, 2005. A Virginia faithless elector, Roger McBride, though pledged to vote for Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew, instead voted for Libertarian candidates John Hospers and Theodora Nathan. In Arizona, Pima and Yavapai counties had a ballot malfunction that counted many votes for both a major party candidate and Linda Jenness of the Socialist Workers' Party. A court ordered that the ballots be counted for both. As a consequence, Jenness received 16% and 8% of the vote in Pima and Yavapai, respectively. 30,579 of her 30,945 Arizona votes are from those two counties. Some sources do not count these votes for Jenness.